So without again taking much time, may I humbly request Biswarup Maharaj, if you can share your words of wisdom with all of us.
Thank you very much, Shubhrata. Uh, I offer my pranams to revered Secretary Maharaj and my pranams and namaskars to other revered monks, the teachers, the staff members, the alumni, and of course, the present students at Vidyapith. So it's a joyous occasion, and I hope you have had a wonderful day with several sessions before this. I was there in Vidyapith for a few years, and I began my monastic life at the Vidyapith in 1994. Revered Secretary Maharaj is here. He saw me join, and I was the recipient of his affection and guidance in my early years as a brahmachari there at Vidyapith. Um, I have lived in other ashrams. I was very lucky to be in several ashrams of the Ramakrishna order after my Vidyapith days. But I can say this with confidence that the ashram I love most, the center I love most is the Deoghar Vidyapith. So I'm really very happy to be back here. Unfortunately, because of the COVID, you could not gather together for your usual reunion. But one of the unexpected benefits of this is that people, the alumni and others like me who cannot travel right now to Deoghar, we are able to participate because of this online format. So congratulations once again to those who thought of it and those who worked hard to make it possible. Um, Vidyapith has given us many gifts. I have seen teachers, I've seen students who are scattered all across the world now, who remember their Vidyapith days, the most precious memories they have. Today, I want to share with you a few minutes. I'll speak about the greatest gift that Vidyapith has given us and is giving us and will give us in the rest of our lives. And that is the gift of spirituality. Vidyapith is built around Sri Ramakrishna, Ma Sharada, and Swami Vivekananda. They stand for spirituality. The great power which is at the core of Vidyapith is Thakur Ma and Swamiji. And there itself, in the holy city of Baidyanath Dham, Baba Baidyanath is there. It's a great spiritual power. And that radiates across Vidyapith and all the members of the Vidyapith family. You see, as we grow older, go through life, you are all pursuing, career and family and your work in the community. We begin to ask this question: what is the ultimate purpose of life? What is the reality here? Who am I, and what is this life all about? That question has to come to us. And the answer to that question, it lies in Vedanta. And it's not an answer that is unfamiliar to us. Here I have to speak about Vedanta, and many times people do not know about it. And so they're hearing about it for the first time in their lives. I come across this reaction so many times when people tell me that I wish we had known this earlier. I wish somebody had told this to us. So many times I hear this. Somebody had told all this to us when we were in college or in school. In Vidyapith, we have the great advantage. From the very beginning, we hear about the great message of Vedanta. The idea, Swami Vivekananda, when he came to the West here, he would often recite this mantra from the Upanishads: Shrinvantu Vishve Amritasya Putraha. Listen, ye children of immortal bliss. I often think the children in Vidyapith, not only the children, the students and the teachers and the monks, all of us, we are those children of immortal bliss. Amritasya Putraha. What is the message? Vedaham Purusham Mahantam. I have realized that infinite being, Aditya Varnam, Tamasah Parastat, blazing forth with the light of consciousness, forever beyond darkness, darkness of death and sorrow and misery and smallness and pettiness. Beyond that, this infinite being is there. And what is the point of this spirituality? What does it give us? Tameva viditva ati mrityumeti. By realizing that, by God realization or self-realization, whatever you call it, one goes beyond the limitations of life. One goes beyond death. One goes beyond sorrow. Tameva viditva ati mrityumeti. Nanya pantha vidyate ayanaya. No other path is there for actually crossing over the sorrows of life. You see, this is the core message of spirituality. It is there in every religion. It's not just in Hinduism. In Vidyapith, we have had Sikh students and Christian students and Muslim students. Um, for all, in all the religions, at the core is what Aldous Huxley called this perennial philosophy, that the underlying truth of all religions. There is a spiritual realization to be had by realizing which one goes beyond suffering and sorrow in life, and no other thing in life, whether it is money or success or family, all those things are good. But in Sri Ramakrishna's words, he says that they are all like zeros. No matter how many zeros you put, the total is only zero. But if you put one before all the zeros, then the number, every zero increases the value. 1 0 is 10 and 2 zeros is 100. So that one is this core idea which was given to us in Vidyapith. Thakur Ma Swamiji, Baba Vaidyanath, the Atman within each of us. And so, self-realization. As the inheritors of Vidyapith tradition, we are all spiritual seekers. Some of us, we know it consciously. Whatever we do, whether you're a monk or a householder, whether you are a teacher or a student, we all are spiritual seekers. Some of us consciously know it, we accept it, and we practice. Some of us don't know it yet, but we should come to it as soon as possible. If we want peace in life, if we want joy and fulfillment in life, spirituality is a must. You may do it through the path of jnana, by self-inquiry, which is what I talk about. If you look at all these YouTube videos, they're mostly about Vedanta path of self-inquiry. But one can equally well do it in the path of bhakti, devotion. And Swami Vivekananda recommended a combination of devotion and knowledge and meditation and service, the harmony of the four yogas. I think that is the central message of Vidyapith. That is the ultimate gift, the greatest gift that Vidyapith gives us, which we can benefit from throughout our lives. And that is something by which we can make our lives blessed and let our lives be a blessing to all those around us, in your family, in your job, in the community. So for the past few years, I've been here in the West, and my work has been to take forward this message, the core message which we get from Vedanta, and in different formats, in our Vedanta Society in Hollywood, whether it is in New York, or last year I was at Harvard, and I've seen the hunger there is, the great interest there is among the Indian community here, of course, but among the Westerners here also, in the academic community also. There's a tremendous interest, especially in the consciousness aspect of it. In recent years, consciousness studies has become a major area of investigation, and people want to know what consciousness is. One area where Vedanta really excels is it is a science of consciousness. It's an investigation into our human experience. The question is whether we are the body. Are we these bodies only? Are we these minds only? Thoughts, feelings, ideas, perceptions? Or is there something beyond? And the eternal message of Vedanta is that we are not just minds. We are not just bodies. Deeper than the physical level, deeper than the subtle mental level, is this level of pure consciousness, existence, consciousness, bliss, Satchidananda. It is the very form of Satchidananda that we worship as Sri Ramakrishna. The very form of Satchidananda that we worship as Baba Vaidyanath there in the Vaidyanath Dham. And the goal is to realize this within ourselves, that I am that. The teaching of Shivoham or Aham Brahmasmi. So this is the central message. And I have seen there's so much interest across the world in knowing this. I think being the inheritors of the wonderful, the legacy, the teachings of the heritage of Vidyapith, we are really very lucky. All of us are very lucky. And this great gift of Vidyapith, we should unpack it. We should open it up and use it in our lives so that our lives become blessed and others also gain this from us. So I wanted to just speak for about 10 minutes. I think I've just run out of time. And if you have any questions or remarks, we can discuss this. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to be present and to see so many. I did not take your names because so many are recognized among, of course, the monks but the teachers and also among the students also. So congratulations for organizing this online format and enabling us to participate. And thank you for having me. Jai Ramakrishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Prashant has already requested that any brother who has got any question, they may type it and we will like to put it to you. But if I just have to ask first question, what is the concept of wellness as per Vedanta?
So this is a new concept these days. It's called human wellness. So
Right.
wellness is not just, yeah, in the general, we can come across this concept, not just physical health, but also mental health, also our relationships with the community, family, job. So the overall concept of wellness. In Vedanta, the answer lies in self-realization. That once we realize that we are not limited by this body, we are not limited by this mind only. We are one consciousness, one with everybody. So the consciousness which we are is not separate. According to Sankhya philosophy, each of us is a separate consciousness. But in Advaita Vedanta, that one consciousness alone shines through each of us in all bodies and minds. So I see there are 173 participants right now. So are we 173? As bodies 173, as minds 173. But deeper than the body and mind is this one consciousness which is shining through these 173 bodies and minds. So at that level, we are all one. In Vedanta, this concept of wellness is grounded in the concept of oneness. So from there comes the idea, the spiritual welfare, the intellectual welfare, emotional, moral, and physical welfare, and the community welfare, all grounded that because we are one, it is only when I take care of everybody that I can really take care of myself. If I hurt somebody else, actually I'm hurting myself, because at the deepest level, we are one reality. This is the idea of wellness that comes from Vedanta.
I have a question.
Yes.
Today also you talked about basically two methods to attain that consciousness or to understand yourself, bhakti and gyan.
Right.
And these are the two methods you often discuss in your videos, which most of them which I watch.
Yes.
Gita talks about the third approach, which is the karma, unattached devotion to work. So is there any dichotomy? Because Vedanta mostly doesn't talk about karma. It only talks about either bhakti or knowledge or devotion. So which of the three do you think is superior for people like us? And what is there any difference between karma, which is mostly the focus of Gita, and Gyan and Bhakti, which is mostly the focus of Vedanta?
That's a good question. Swami Vivekananda, we all read this in our school days, when you were in Vidyapith, we studied this in our value education classes, or even the things that we chanted unknowingly. All the kids were chanting it in the dham, Gita chanting every day and so on. The Swami Vivekananda speaks about four yogas, actually, four approaches. One is the approach of jnana, which I mostly speak about. Then there's the approach of bhakti, devotion. There's God, and we love and worship God. What you do in the temple in Vidyapith or in the temple in Baidyanath Dham. And then there is the aspect of meditation, where we calm down and withdraw from the external world and investigate within, in the silence of our minds, to discover that reality. So that is the meditative aspect. And there is the way of karma, where we engage with the world, not for our selfish gains, but for, as a service to God in all humanity, in all living beings. Now, according to Swami Vivekananda, all four are powerful methods of enlightenment. By all four. By philosophical investigation, jnana, you can get enlightenment. By devotion, loving devotion to God, one can get enlightenment. By deep meditation, one can get enlightenment. Or by loving service to God through our engagement with the world, karma yoga, one can get enlightenment. He recommended a harmony of all four. So that's why you will see, whether in the life of the monks or in our Vidyapith life, you will find there is a harmony of all four. There is meditation in the morning, there is study of texts like Gita and other Upanishads and all. There is work throughout the day, everybody is busy with the school and other activities. There is devotion, and we'll have arati and pujas and everything. So all these elements are there. 4 yogas are there in our lives. To answer your question directly, which is best? All 4, the harmony of 4 is what Swami Vivekananda has recommended. For each of us, depending upon our mental makeup, one or the other may seem better. So if you have a very intellectual makeup, you will like Jnana Yoga. If you are very emotional and loving by nature, you will like Bhakti Yoga. If you are dynamic and active, you will like Karma Yoga. So different yogas will appeal to us depending on our mental makeup. But Swami Vivekananda's great insight was that the harmony is the best, safest, and most powerful. Yes. Suppose I do not have too much liking for Karma Yoga or for meditation, but that is not the fault of Karma Yoga. It is not the fault of meditation. It is a lack of my mental makeup. So if I try work Karma Yoga and practice meditation, slowly my capacity for that will increase. It's best to have a harmony of 4 yogas.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Maharaj, I've got a question. I am Anindo Purkayat from 85 batch.
Yes.
And since you are in the US, so it is said that the interest in Vedanta and Hinduism in US is very high now. So as it has never been as much as it is now. So is that true? And if that is true, why that is so?
And that's a good question. This interest actually started in a big way with Swami Vivekananda coming here. In fact, the ashram I am in, the Vedanta Society of New York, is the first Vedanta society. And it was started by Swami Vivekananda in 1894. In 1893, he came in the World Parliament of Religions. And then next year, he started this to spread Vedanta here. Yes, so from that time onwards, even before that, thanks to Emerson and the American transcendentalists, some idea of Gita, some idea of Hinduism was there in USA. But in a big way, it came with Swami Vivekananda. And after that, so many teachers, first from the Ramakrishna mission, like Swami Abhedanandaji was here for 20 years. Then many others, like Yogananda Paramahamsa from the self-realization, the Kriya Yoga, and many others, they have come. ISKCON has come here, Mahesh Yogi, so many representatives of Hinduism and different schools of Hinduism. They have come here. So there is a great and abiding interest over the last 100 years. Recently, what has happened is there's a lot of interest in Buddhism, partly because of the charismatic approach of the Dalai Lama, and also because people here are, when they're looking, they're spiritual seekers, they are not so easily willing to believe in God. So if you say you have to worship Krishna or you have to worship Shiva, they say we already have our Christianity or Judaism. Why do you need another one? But if you present a different approach, for example, Swami Vivekananda said, religion is not believing in something. Religion is realization. So this was a new idea that you can actually experience. You can actually practice sadhana and experience it for yourself. So this approach is very popular, and Buddhism is strong on this approach. A variety of meditation techniques are available. It is also does not expect you to believe in God. So for some reasons like this, and also the personal charisma of the Dalai Lama, Buddhism is actually, I would say, more popular right now. But for us from the Ramakrishna order, it's fine because we accept all the paths. And if Buddhism is popular, we are very happy about it also, because it represents part of the same wisdom tradition from India.
I have one question.
Yes.
My question is related to rebirth.
Yes.
It is said that the soul doesn't die. It's the body which succumbs. And the soul goes to another form and another life. So this soul, why it is not able to carry forward the learnings of this previous birth? We know there are few exceptional cases whom we call Jatismar, who are able to carry it forward. But why it is not possible for everybody to do that?
Shubir Babu, that's a good question. So the physical body dies, that is clear. We all see that. And the soul goes on this first one must be clear about what we mean by a soul. So the soul is what in Vedanta is called the Sukshma Sharira. That is also not the Atman. So according to Vedanta, the real self, the Atman, has like two coverings. One is the subtle body, Sukshma Sharira, and then the Sthula Sharira, the physical body. The physical body is the one which is born, which ages, and which dies at the end of this life. But the subtle body, I mean, one might ask, what is this subtle body? Physical body, we all understand. Subtle body also, we experience it all the time. Our thoughts, feelings, the personality which we think we are, that is the mind, the intellect, the memories, the ego. So this is the subtle body along with the prana, the life forces. Now your specific question was, so if the subtle body survives, why doesn't the learning of the past life survive with it? It is interesting, but you notice that it depends on memory. And even in this life itself, you notice how much is lost within a few years. Yes. So all that we learned in Vidyapith, so out of that, a lot of it drops out. Only some precious memories are left. Look at our own childhood when we were babies or toddlers. How much do we remember of our age 5 or age 2 or 1? Nothing. How much do we remember of our being in the womb of the mother? Nothing. So imagine the trauma of passing through a physical death and then being born in another body. I think that trauma would be enough to erase or block memories of past lives. That might be the answer. As you said, there are some evidence of Jati Smaras who actually recall some memories of past lives.
Raj, I have a question, a rather specific one. You mentioned prana, and in that context, this is Anirban Sadhu from Switzerland. We've been in touch recently by email, I believe.
Yes, yes.
Right. So my specific question was, what do our scriptures tell us about the origin of Kala, time, and prana?
Kala, time, and I missed the last part.
Prana.
Prana. All right. Time, according to Vedanta, is part of Maya. Maya is space, time, and causation. Desha, Kala, Nimitta in Sanskrit. And it is coming through this or shining through this space, time, and causation that the ultimate reality, Brahman or Atman, appears as this world. So this entire physical world and bodies and minds and all of that. So time, to give a specific answer, time is a part of Maya itself. Everything else is within time and space, except the Atman, which transcends time and space also. Prana is a part of the subtle body. Prana is part of the Sukshma Sharira. So Sukshma Sharira in Upanishads, if you see, it has sometimes 17 parts they mention or 19 parts. 5 of them would be the Pancha Prana, the 5 activities of the physiological body. So what is this prana? Basic Vedanta text like Vedanta Sara would say that the 5 elements, the ancient cosmology of Akasha, Vayu, and Agni, and water, and earth, Apa, Prithvi, they combine in various forms. There are subtle aspects of it called tanmatras, which form our subtle bodies, including prana. So prana is also material. According to Vedanta, life is also material. It is composed of material elements. I had an interesting discussion with one Professor Massimo here. He teaches both philosophy and biology in the City College in City University in New York. And we're discussing consciousness. So he's a reductionist. He said, look, there's nothing special about consciousness. Consciousness is an activity of the biological brain. And right now we can't explain it, but in time we'll be able to explain it. The question was related to what you asked. He said that at one time, people thought life cannot be explained. But now we have understood life to an almost molecular level. We can explain life, what is going on, when we say life. Now, the corresponding word for life in Vedanta would be prana. I said, you're making a category mistake. In Vedanta, prana was always understood as material. So if you can explain prana in terms of matter, it is nothing surprising for Vedanta, because prana is material. But consciousness is not material. Consciousness, Chaitanya, or spirit, is not composed of material elements. So to say that because we are able to reduce prana or life to matter, we one day will be able to reduce consciousness to matter, From a Vedantic perspective, we are making a category mistake.
Maharaj, I have a question. I'm Tushar from 2001 batch.
Yes.
So, Maharaj, is it really possible for the world to find peace? Because there are so many struggles between countries, between different religions. And if it happens so that the whole world comes into a peace, is it really sustainable? Or the other type of emotion, like other jealousy or some emotions, are there to maintain as a balancing act so that peace does not means what peace does not make a world in a unidirectional way. So is it really possible?
Tushar, your question has got the answer in it itself. Is it really possible? And if you attain it, is it sustainable? So if you go back to Swami Vivekananda, he gives the example of, kutte ki tedi poonch, the dog's curly tail. No matter how much you straighten it out, it will again become curly again. Similarly, the nature of the world is such that it is subject to continuous change. And is world peace possible? First answer is no, but this does not mean that we will not stop working for it. We will work for world peace. We will work for peace at our personal level, at the family level, organizational level, community level, national level, and international level. Why? If it is not ultimately possible, then why should we work at it? First of all, it does good to us. I'm using Swami Vivekananda's words. It does good to us first. When they say दूसरों को सीधी करने के प्रयास में हम लोग खुद सीधा हो जाते हैं. So whether others are straightened out or not, we get the benefit of it. Moral action, spiritual action leads to personal benefit. We become better persons. And definitely, even if sustainable world peace is not there, things can become better. So from a pretty poor and disturbed state, one can improve, one can make a significant change. Even if that will not last forever, one can benefit a lot of people by our service. So the answer to your question is, ultimately, permanently, is world peace possible? No. Why not? Because like the Buddha's insight, everything is changing all the time. Even if you attain world peace, that will also change. So changing from peace, it will change into not peace again. But in the process, we get benefited. So we must try for world peace.
Can I ask Subrat a question?
Yes, Sankalpa, please go ahead.
Okay, I had already put in the chat. I'm asking this from the perspective of people who are working on design or built environment. And I'm asking this question that as a designer or as an architect, we are all trained to design space. Or let me put it in a simple manner, design of building is design of space. So what is an equivalent in Vedanta? What is the idea of space as per Vedanta? Because as per our training of designers, the space versus space means that in the manner in which we contribute to the expression of the space, etc., by the way we organize materials. Now, from the perspective of Vedanta, what do you think could be the equivalent of space? Because it is not coming from our own tradition. We never in Hindi say that aap space bana rahe ho.
Right.
So
that's an interesting question, Sankalp. Nobody has asked me that earlier, but it's a very interesting question and a deep one. Okay, 2 points. I'll make 2 points here. One, according to Vedanta, space is also material. So it's an object to consciousness. There's something more fundamental than space, and that is consciousness or awareness. More fundamental, more deeper. So from the Taittiriya Upanishad, you find from Brahman emerges the 5 elements. Tasmad va etasmad atmana akasha sambhuta. Space emerges from consciousness. And then from space comes Vayu and Agni and Apa and Prithvi and all of that. So fundamental matter is space. We might say, how do you define matter in Vedanta? In Vedanta, matter is defined as anything that is an object to consciousness. That is matter. The Hindi words, Jada and Chetan. So you are Chetan, your consciousness. And whatever you experience, that is Jada. So do you experience space? Of course we experience space. If I'm going to model and build design in space, then I experience space. Then space is also Jada. So space is an emergence from consciousness. So that's a very fundamental idea of Advaita Vedanta. Maybe you can make something of that. That's one. Second, space is used as an example to teach Vedanta. So especially in Gaudapada's Mandukya Karika, you find again and again use the idea of Ghatakasha, Mahakasha, and so on. The idea there is just the opposite of what you said. We cannot design space. We cannot use space or modify space. Every design, modification, and use is done in space, but it does not touch space. So the example they use is in the Mandukya is that suppose you have a pot, ghata, pot, and it seems as if now space has been cut off into two parts. One is Ghatakasha, space within the pot, and the vast space outside the spot, outside the pot. Now, what Mandukya points out is that you have actually not cut off space. It only seems to be so. So what you have designed is a pot in space. You have not designed space as such. It looks like space has become pot-like, circular and spherical, semi-spherical and all. No, space has not become like that. You have designed, in Sanskrit, it's called an upadhi, a limiting, circumscript. You have circumscribed space in such a way, it looks like it has become pot-like. It looks like it has become spherical. So buildings. So I'm in this building in Manhattan now. So is it true that the space in Manhattan has become hundreds of apartments? Not at all. Space is exactly space, unlimited, undesigned, unchanged. But we have inserted these limitations into space, and we call it designing or modifying space. So this is I don't know, maybe this can give some new perspective from a Vedantic perspective into the philosophy of or aesthetics of architecture. I don't know.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so at the very outset, I think I would like to acknowledge one thing, that our planning has been really bad. We had provisioned very less time for Maharaj. I think that next time, whenever we request Maharaj to spare time, we'll have a full session for Maharaj only, and we will not limit.
Can't we continue, please, for another 15 minutes? I am Pradeep Majumdar of 1970.
Pradeep Babu, I would love to continue, but I also actually have another class now. So
Okay, Maharaj.
it's a class
Okay.
on. I am attending. I'm attending as a student.
Maharaj, do you remember Abhimanyu Majumdar?
Yes, yes.
He learned chanting from you.
Yes, Abhimanyu,
I am his father, Pradeep Majumdar of 1970 batch. Pranam Maharaj.
Very glad to see you. And thank you, Subrat and Prashant. I also want to thank our Mansher Singh, who told me about
Mansher. Mansher is also there.
For Vidyapith, anytime. So Subrata and Prashant, and also anytime you come, ask me, first priority will always be for Vidyapith. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you
so much, Maharaj.
Pranam, Maharaj. Pranam.